The morning sun painted the sky in shades of orange and pink as Captain Mike Stevens adjusted his oxygen mask inside the cockpit of his F-22 Raptor. Below him, the Rocky Mountains stretched endlessly, their peaks covered in fresh snow that sparkled like diamonds. He had been flying these skies for 12 years, but the view never got old. Today was supposed to be a routine patrol mission along the western coast, nothing more than a training exercise to keep his skills sharp. Viper 1, this is command. We have an unidentified aircraft entering restricted airspace. Coordinates being sent to your system now? The voice crackled through his headset, sharp and urgent. Mike's heart rate picked up slightly. Unidentified aircraft were rare, but not unheard of. Usually, they turned out to be small civilian planes that had wandered off course, their pilots unaware they had entered military airspace. Still, protocol was protocol. He checked his display screen as the coordinates loaded. Copy that, command. Viper 1 moving to intercept. Mike banked his aircraft hard to the left, feeling the G-forces push against his body. His wingman, Lieutenant Sarah Chen, followed closely behind in her own F-22. They had flown together for 3 years and trusted each other completely. Viper 2 here. I've got visual on the target, Sarah's voice came through. It's a small private jet. Looks expensive. No distress signals, no response to our hails. Mike squinted through his canopy and spotted the sleek white aircraft ahead. It was flying steady and smooth, maintaining altitude at exactly 30,000 feet. Something about it felt off. Private jets didn't usually fly through restricted military airspace without clearance. Either the pilot was incredibly careless, or something else was going on. Command, Viper 1. Target confirmed. Requesting permission to make visual contact and escort out of restricted zone. There was a pause. Then the radio crackled again. Viper 1. Maintain defensive position. We're running the aircraft registration now. Stand by. Mike and Sarah flew in formation, keeping a safe distance from the private jet. Through his advanced targeting system, Mike could see the aircraft more clearly now. It was a Gulfstream G615, one of the most expensive private jets in the world. The windows were tinted dark, making it impossible to see inside. The registration number on the tail was partially visible. Minutes felt like hours as they waited for command to respond. Mike kept his hands steady on the controls, his eyes never leaving the mysterious aircraft. In his years of service, he had intercepted dozens of planes. Most times, the pilots were simply lost or had made an honest mistake. They would apologize profusely over the radio, follow the escort out of restricted airspace, and everyone would go home with nothing more than paperwork to file. But this felt different. The silence from the aircraft was unusual. Most pilots, when they realized they had military jets on their tail, would immediately try to communicate. They would be scared, confused, apologetic. This pilot said nothing. The jet just kept flying, smooth and steady, as if the F-22s weren't even there. Viper 1, this is command. We've identified the aircraft. The voice on the radio had changed. It wasn't the usual controller. This voice was deeper, more serious. It belonged to Colonel Bradley Harrison, the base commander himself. Mike felt his stomach tighten. The colonel never came on the radio unless something serious was happening. Go ahead, command, Mike replied. Keeping his voice professional, the aircraft is registered to a private medical transport company. We've made contact with them. They're carrying a high-priority passenger on an emergency medical flight. The colonel paused. Viper 1, you and Viper 2 are to maintain escort position, but do not, I repeat, do not take any aggressive action. This is a medical emergency. Mike glanced at his wingman's aircraft. He could imagine Sarah's confused expression matching his own. Medical flights usually filed proper flight plans and communicated with air traffic control. They didn't just fly through restricted airspace in silence. Command, understood. Can you confirm the nature of the medical emergency? And why no communication from the aircraft? Another pause. Mike could hear muffled voices in the background, as if the colonel was talking to someone else. When he came back on, his voice was even more serious than before. Viper 1. The passenger is a young girl. She's in critical condition. The pilot reported radio equipment failure, 20 minutes ago, but continued the flight due to the emergency nature. They're heading to Denver Medical Center. The girl needs immediate surgery. Mike felt his chest tighten. A child. That changed everything. He looked at the sleek white jet again, no longer seeing it as just an unidentified target. Inside that aircraft was a little girl fighting for her life, and her parents were probably terrified beyond measure. Viper 1 and Viper 2 will maintain escort to ensure safe passage. Negative. Viper 1. Return to base. We have civilian air traffic control, taking over from here. Mike was about to acknowledge the order when his radar screen lit up with a new contact. His blood ran cold. Another aircraft was approaching fast from the north. Too fast, the signature on his screen was unmistakable. It was another fighter jet, but not American. The profile matched a foreign military aircraft, though he couldn't identify which country from this distance. Command Viper 1. We have a new contact. Fast mover approaching from the north. Profile unknown? It's heading straight for the medical transport. The radio exploded with activity. Multiple voices spoke at once, issuing orders and requesting confirmations. Through the chaos, Colonel Harrison's voice cut through clearly. Viper 1, Viper 2, you are weapons hot. Protect that aircraft at all costs. I repeat, protect that medical transport at all costs. Mike's fingers moved instinctively over his controls, activating his weapon systems. Beside him, Sarah did the same. They both accelerated, positioning themselves between the unknown aircraft and the defenseless private jet. Viper 2, stay with the transport, Mike ordered. I'll intercept the unknown contact. Copy that, Viper 1, be careful. Mike pushed his throttle forward and his F-22 leaped ahead with incredible speed. The G-forces pushed him back into his seat as he climbed higher, positioning himself for the intercept. His radar showed the unknown aircraft was still approaching fast. Whoever was flying that plane was skilled and determined as he closed the distance. His targeting system finally got a clear identification. Mike's eyes widened. It was a fighter jet from a foreign nation, one that had been making aggressive moves in international airspace for months. But this wasn't international airspace. This was American territory. This was an act of aggression. Command, Viper 1. I have positive ID on the contact. It's hostile. Requesting rules of engagement. The seconds that followed felt like an eternity. Mike kept his aircraft steady, his finger hovering near the weapons release. Behind him, Sarah was protecting the medical transport. Inside that white jet was a little girl who needed to live. She needed to reach that hospital. Nothing could stop that from happening. Nothing. Viper 1, you are authorized to engage if the hostile aircraft does not break off. Issue a warning first. Mike switched to the international emergency frequency. Unknown aircraft, this is United States Air Force. You are in violation of sovereign airspace. Break off immediately, or you will be fired upon. No response. The hostile aircraft kept coming. Mike's heart pounded in his chest. He had never fired on another aircraft in combat. He had trained for it thousands of times, but training and reality were two different things. His hand tightened on the stick. Then, just as he was about to issue a final warning, his radio crackled with a new voice. It was weak, filled with static, but unmistakably the voice of a woman. She sounded young and scared. Please don't shoot. My daughter. Her name is Emma. She's only 7 years old. Please. She needs help. Mike's finger froze on the weapons control. The woman's voice had come through the emergency frequency, which meant it was from the medical transport, not the hostile aircraft. But something in her voice, the raw desperation and fear, cut through all his military training and hit him directly in the heart. This is Captain Stevens, United States Air Force. Your aircraft is secure. We're escorting you to Denver. Stay calm. Mike kept his eyes on the approaching hostile aircraft while he spoke. It was still coming now, less than 20 miles away. The woman's voice came back, clearer this time. They fixed the radio. Oh God, thank you. My baby, she's dying. She fell from the treehouse this morning. Internal bleeding. The doctor said if we don't get her to Denver in the next 30 minutes, She won't make it. Please, I'm begging you, don't let anything stop us. Mike's jaw clenched. 7 years old. The same age as his niece, Lucy. He thought about Lucy's bright smile, her endless questions about his job, the way she called him Uncle Mike, the Sky Knight. The thought of her lying in a medical transport, fighting for her life, made his blood run cold. Ma'am, I promise you, nothing is going to stop you from reaching that hospital. What's your name? Jennifer. Jennifer Walsh. My husband is with me. Emma, our daughter. She's unconscious. There's a doctor on board trying to stabilize her, but he says she needs surgery immediately. Mrs. Walsh, I need you to stay strong for Emma. We're going to get you there safely. I give you my word. As Mike spoke, he watched his radar screen. The hostile aircraft had slowed down slightly but was still on an intercept course. Something wasn't adding up. If this was a deliberate attack, the hostile pilot would have engaged by now. Instead, they were just flying closer, maintaining distance, but not breaking off. Command, Viper 1. The medical transport has restored radio contact. Mother on board confirms critical patient. 7-year-old girl with internal bleeding. They have less than 30 minutes to reach Denver Medical. Hostile aircraft still approaching, but not engaging. Something feels wrong about this situation. Colonel Harrison's voice came back immediately. Viper 1, we're seeing the same thing. Intelligence is analyzing the situation now. The hostile aircraft belongs to a nation we're not currently in conflict with. This might be a navigation error on their part. Continue to maintain defensive position, but hold fire unless directly threatened. Mike understood the delicate nature of the situation. Shooting down another nation's military aircraft over American soil would create an international incident that could escalate into something much worse. But he also had a 7-year-old girl below him who was running out of time. Politics and diplomacy meant nothing compared to her life. Viper 2, status? Mike called to Sarah, Viper 2 holding position with the transport. They're maintaining course and speed. ETA to Denver is 23 minutes. The hostile is now 15 miles out and closing slowly. Mike made a decision. He broke formation and accelerated directly toward the unknown aircraft. It was a risky move, but he needed to force the hostile pilot's hand. Either they would break off, or they would reveal their true intentions. Viper 1, what are you doing? Sarah's voice held a note of concern. Trust me, Viper 2. Stay with the transport. As Mike closed the distance, his targeting system locked onto the hostile aircraft. His heads-up display showed every detail of the foreign fighter jet. It was modern, well-equipped, and in the hands of a skilled pilot. Mike's training kicked in automatically. He calculated attack angles, defensive maneuvers, and escape routes all in a fraction of a second. 10 miles. 8 miles. 6 miles then, the hostile aircraft did something unexpected. It turned away slightly, not breaking off completely, but angling away from the medical transport. It was as if the pilot had finally noticed the F-22s and was reconsidering their approach. Mike's radio crackled with a new voice. This time, it was a man speaking heavily accented English. American pilot, this is Captain Dmitry Volkov of the Russian Air Force. We have navigation system failure. We did not know we entered your airspace. We are turning back now. We mean no aggression. A navigation failure was possible, though unlikely with modern systems. But the timing was suspicious. Still, the Russian pilot was breaking off now, which meant the immediate threat was diminishing. Russian aircraft, this is Captain Stevens. Maintain your current heading away from the medical transport. You will be escorted out of American airspace. Any deviation will be considered a hostile act. Understood, American Captain. We are leaving now. We apologize for this incident. Mike watched as the Russian fighter jet began a long, slow turn to the north. But he didn't relax. Something about this still felt off. Navigation systems didn't just fail on modern military aircraft. They had multiple redundancies, backup systems, and ground-based navigation as well. For everything to fail at once was almost impossible. Command Viper 1. The hostile claims navigation failure and is breaking off. I'm maintaining visual contact until they're out of range. Viper 2 should continue escort of the medical transport. Copy that, Viper 1. Good work. Viper 2. Proceed with the escort. We've contacted Denver Medical Center. They're standing by with a full surgical team. Mike split his attention between the departing Russian aircraft and his radar screen showing Sarah's position with the medical transport. Everything seemed to be resolving peacefully. The crisis was over. Emma Walsh would make it to the hospital in time. Then his blood ran cold. A new contact appeared on his radar screen. Then another. And another. 3 more aircraft were approaching from different directions, all converging on the medical transport's flight path. The signatures were commercial aircraft, but their trajectories were wrong. They were flying in a coordinated pattern that made no sense for civilian traffic. Command, Viper 1. We have multiple new contacts approaching the medical transport from 3 directions. This doesn't look like a coincidence. Something's happening here. The radio exploded with activity again. Mike heard Colonel Harrison barking orders to scramble more fighters. Air traffic control was trying to contact the approaching aircraft. Intelligence officers were running analyses. But Mike knew that whatever was happening, it was happening now. There was no time to wait for backup or orders. Viper 2, we have company. 3 aircraft converging on your position. I'm coming back to you now. Copy that, Viper 1. The transport pilot sees them too. He's asking what's going on. Mike pushed his throttle to maximum and felt his F-2 to accelerate with incredible force. The Russian fighter was forgotten now. All that mattered was getting back to protect Emma Walsh and her parents. As he flew, his mind tried to piece together what was happening. 4 aircraft, all appearing at once, all converging on a single medical transport carrying a critically injured child. This wasn't random. This was planned. But why? What could anyone possibly want with a 7-year-old girl and her desperate parents? Mrs. Walsh, this is Captain Stevens. I need you to listen very carefully. We have several aircraft approaching your position. I don't know who they are or what they want. But I'm not going to let anything happen to you or Emma. I need you to make sure everyone on that aircraft is strapped in tight. Things might get rough. Jennifer Walsh's voice came back, shaking with fear. What's happening? Why would anyone come after us? We're just a normal family. Emma is just a little girl. This doesn't make any sense. Mike's mind raced through possibilities. Kidnapping? But that seemed impossible at 30,000 feet. Terrorism. But what would terrorists gain from attacking a random medical flight? Unless it wasn't random. Unless Emma Walsh wasn't just any little girl. Mrs. Walsh, I need you to tell me something. Is there any reason anyone would want to stop you from reaching Denver? Anything unusual about Emma's situation? Anything at all? There was a long pause. Mike could hear muffled conversation in the background. Jennifer was talking to her husband. When she came back on, her voice was barely above a whisper. Emma is adopted. We adopted her 2 years ago from an international adoption agency. She came from Eastern Europe. We were told her biological parents had died. But 6 months ago, a man came to our house asking questions about her. He said her biological mother was still alive and wanted her back. We told him to leave us alone and called the police. We never saw him again. We thought it was over. Mike's stomach dropped. Suddenly, everything made sense. This wasn't about the Walshes. This was about Emma. Someone wanted her back. They were willing to use military aircraft and coordinated attacks to get her. The Russian fighter hadn't been a navigation error. It had been a probe, testing the defenses. Now the real attack was coming. Command, Viper 1. This is not a random incident. The child on board the medical transport was adopted from Eastern Europe 2 years ago. Someone has been trying to take her back. I believe this is a coordinated abduction attempt. Request immediate backup and guidance. Colonel Harrison's response was swift and decisive. Viper 1 backup is 8 minutes out. 4 more F-22s are scrambling now. Your mission is to protect that aircraft by any means necessary. Rules of engagement are now weapons-free if any aircraft poses a direct threat to the medical transport. Intelligence is digging into the adoption records now. Mike rejoined Sarah in formation around the medical transport. The 3 approaching aircraft were now clearly visible on radar. They were maintaining commercial airliner profiles, but their flight paths were all wrong. They were closing in from the north, east, and south, creating a triangle with the medical transport at its center. "Sarah, take the northern contact. I'll handle the eastern one. If that southern aircraft makes any aggressive move toward the transport, you're cleared to engage." "Copy that, Mike? But what are we dealing with here? Commercial aircraft don't fly like this, think they're disguised as commercial, but are actually something else. Or they've been hijacked. Either way, they're after Emma Walsh." Mike accelerated toward the eastern aircraft. As he closed the distance, his advanced sensors began picking up more detailed information. The aircraft was indeed a commercial Boeing 737, but there was something odd about its heat signature. The engines were running hotter than normal for a cruising airliner. Someone had modified them for extra speed. "Eastern contact. This is United States Air Force. You are ordered to change course immediately and exit this airspace. Respond now." No response. The aircraft maintained its course, flying directly toward the medical transport. Mike positioned his F-22 between them, his weapons armed and ready. A final warning. "Change course now, or you will be fired upon." The radio crackled with static, then a voice came through. It was cold and professional, speaking perfect English with no accent. "American pilot, you do not understand what you are protecting. The child on that aircraft was stolen from her mother. We are simply taking her home." Mike's jaw clenched. "I don't care who you are or what you think you're doing. That little girl is dying. She needs surgery in the next 15 minutes, or she won't survive. You will not stop this medical transport. Turn away now. The girl will receive medical care once we have her. You have 10 seconds to move aside, or we will go through you." Mike's heart pounded. This was really happening. Someone was willing to shoot down an American fighter pilot to kidnap a 7-year-old girl. But why? What made Emma Walsh so important that someone would risk an international incident? "Command, Eastern contact is making direct threats. They claim Emma Walsh was stolen, and they're taking her back. They've given me 10 seconds to move aside. Advising my intentions to defend the medical transport with force, if necessary. Viper 1, hold position. Do not let that aircraft through. We have intelligence coming in now." Emma Walsh's biological mother is allegedly the daughter of a high-ranking official in a foreign government. The adoption was apparently done without proper consent, but that doesn't give them the right to intercept a medical flight. Protect that child. Mike's mind reeled. Emma Walsh was the granddaughter of a foreign official, someone powerful enough to coordinate this kind of operation. Someone who had access to modified aircraft and pilots willing to commit acts of aggression in American airspace. This was bigger than he had imagined. The eastern aircraft was now 3 miles away and still closing. Mike's targeting system had a perfect lock. His finger rested on the trigger. Everything he had been trained to do told him to fire now, to eliminate the threat before it got any closer. But shooting down what appeared to be a commercial airliner was a line he had never crossed. "Sarah, status on your contact. Northern aircraft is matching every move I make. They're mirroring me. Mike, I think they're trying to distract us while the others make their move." Mike glanced at his radar. Sarah was right. The northern and southern aircraft were positioning themselves to draw the F-22s away from the medical transport. The eastern aircraft was the real threat. It was now just 2 miles away, in the medical transport. Jennifer Walsh's voice came over the radio, shaking with terror. "Captain Stevens, Emma's vitals are dropping. The doctor says she has maybe 10 minutes left. Please, we have to get to Denver now. My baby is dying." 10 minutes. Mike looked at his navigation display. Denver Medical Center was still 12 minutes away at their current speed. They needed to go faster, but the medical transport was already at maximum speed. Unless they could buy time somehow, says Walsh. "Tell your pilot to increase altitude. Climb to 35,000 feet as fast as possible. It might give us some extra time," the doctor says. "Changing altitude could make things worse. The pressure changes could cause more internal bleeding." Mike cursed under his breath. They were trapped. Emma needed to stay at this altitude, but that meant they couldn't outrun the pursuing aircraft. The only option was to hold them off until they reached Denver. The Eastern aircraft was now 1 mile away. Through his canopy, Mike could see it clearly. It looked like a normal Boeing 737. But something about the way it flew told him there was nothing normal about this plane. The pilot was too skilled, the movements too precise. This was no commercial pilot. This was military trained. Last chance. Turn away or I will fire. The response was immediate. We are not turning away. Move aside or be moved. Mike saw the aircraft's nose dip slightly. They were preparing to dive below him and get to the medical transport. His training took over. His finger squeezed the trigger. A missile launched from his F-22, streaking through the sky with a trail of white smoke. But Mike hadn't aimed to kill. The missile passed just 50 feet in front of the Eastern aircraft. Close enough that the pilot would feel the shockwave. Close enough to make them understand this wasn't a bluff. The warning shot lit up the sky like a small sun. The Eastern aircraft jerked upward, the pilot's instincts kicking in. For a moment, Mike thought they would break off. But then the aircraft leveled out and kept coming, now even more determined. You missed, American pilot. We will not miss. Mike's blood ran cold. The Eastern aircraft's weapons bay doors were opening. He had been right. This wasn't a commercial airliner. It was a military transport disguised as one. And now they were preparing to fire. Sarah. Southern aircraft is moving in. They're going for the transport. Mike's head snapped to his radar screen. While he had been focused on the Eastern threat, the Southern aircraft had made its move. It was diving toward the medical transport from below, approaching fast. Sarah was out of position to intercept. The Northern aircraft was blocking her path. Everything happened in slow motion. Mike saw the Southern aircraft closing in. He saw Jennifer Walsh's medical transport, defenseless and vulnerable. He saw the distance to Denver Medical Center on his navigation screen. 8 minutes. So close but still too far. Mike made a decision that would either save Emma Walsh or cost him his career. He abandoned his position, leaving the Eastern aircraft behind, and dove toward the medical transport with every ounce of speed his F-22 could give him. The G-forces crushed against his body as he pushed the aircraft past its recommended limits. Viper 1, what are you doing? You're leaving the Eastern aircraft undefended. Mike didn't respond. He was too focused on the Intercept. The Southern aircraft was now just seconds from reaching the medical transport. Through his targeting system, he could see it was another modified 737. Its bay doors were open. Something was extending from them. Not weapons. Something else. A grappling hook. They were planning to snag the medical transport and force it down. Mike's finger hovered over the trigger again. But he couldn't fire. Not yet. If he missed, the missile could hit the medical transport. If he damaged the Southern aircraft, debris could take out the medical jet. The margin for error was 0. Instead, Mike did something no sane pilot would attempt. He positioned his F-22 directly between the Southern aircraft and the medical transport, matching their speed and altitude. His jet was now just 50 feet from the medical transport's wing. So close he could see the terrified faces pressed against the windows. The Southern aircraft pilot saw what Mike was doing and tried to adjust, moving to go around him. But Mike matched every movement, blocking their path. It was like a deadly game of chess played at 500 miles per hour at 30,000 feet. You're insane, American pilot. Move aside. Not a chance. Then Jennifer Walsh's voice cut through the chaos, and what she said next would change everything. Captain Stevens, Emma is awake. She's asking for her mother, her real mother. She's saying a name. She's saying Alina. She remembers her. Mike's heart skipped a beat. In that moment, the 7-year-old girl fighting for her life wasn't just a mission objective anymore. She was a real child with real memories of a mother who had lost her. But that didn't change the facts. Emma was dying, and whoever these people were, they had chosen to intercept her in mid-flight, rather than go through proper legal channels. Mrs. Walsh, Emma is your daughter now? You've raised her for 2 years. She needs that surgery, and nothing else matters right now. Tell her you love her, and that we're getting her to the hospital. Mike could hear crying in the background. Jennifer Walsh was sobbing, her voice breaking as she spoke to Emma. The sounds of a mother's desperate love filled the radio frequency, and Mike felt his chest tighten. He had a job to do, but hearing that raw emotion reminded him that every decision he made in the next few minutes would ripple through lives forever. The Southern aircraft was still trying to maneuver around him. Mike matched every move, his hands steady on the controls, despite the sweat running down his face inside his flight suit. His aircraft was being pushed to its absolute limits. One wrong move, one moment of lost concentration, and two aircraft would collide, killing everyone aboard both planes. Command Viper 1. I need those backup fighters now. I can't hold this position much longer. Viper 1. Backup is 4 minutes out. The Eastern aircraft is moving toward your position. You're about to be boxed in. Viper 2 is engaged with the Northern aircraft and can't assist. You need to break off. Negative command. If I break off, they'll take the medical transport. Emma Walsh will die either way. I'm holding position. Mike glanced at his fuel gauge. Another problem. The aggressive maneuvering was burning fuel faster than normal. He had maybe 15 minutes of flight time left at this rate. Denver was still 6 minutes away. The math was tight, but it could work if nothing else went wrong. The Eastern aircraft appeared on his left side, flying parallel to him now. Mike was sandwiched between two modified military aircraft disguised as commercial jets, the medical transport on his right side. Sarah was somewhere above him, still tangling with the Northern aircraft. It was the most precarious formation Mike had ever been part of. American pilot, you have nowhere to go. We have you surrounded. Land the medical aircraft at the coordinates we're sending you, and everyone lives. Refuse, and we will take more aggressive action. Mike's jaw clenched. The only coordinates that matter are Denver Medical Center. That's where we're going, and you can't stop us. You're willing to die for a child that isn't even American by birth. For a girl who was taken from her real family? I'm willing to die to save a 7-year-old girl who needs surgery. Her nationality doesn't matter. Her biological family doesn't matter right now. Her life matters. That's it. There was a pause on the radio. Then a different voice came through, older and more authoritative. It spoke with a heavy accent that Mike recognized as Eastern European. Captain Stevens, this is Colonel Victor Petrov. I am the grandfather of the child you are protecting. 2 years ago, my daughter was in a car accident. She was in a coma for 8 months. During that time, her husband, desperate for money, sold their daughter through illegal adoption channels. When my daughter woke up, her child was gone. We have been searching ever since. Emma is my granddaughter. She belongs with us. Mike felt his resolve waver for just a moment. If what this man was saying was true, then Emma had been taken from her mother illegally. But that didn't justify this military operation. That didn't justify risking her life right now when she was bleeding internally and running out of time. Colonel Petrov, if what you're saying is true, then I'm sorry for your daughter's loss. But Emma needs surgery immediately. Let us land in Denver. Let her survive. Then you can work through the proper legal channels to get her back. But if you stop us now, she dies. Is that what you want? To kill your own granddaughter? The silence that followed was heavy. Mike kept his eyes on his instruments and the aircraft surrounding him. 5 minutes to Denver. Emma's vitals were critical. The doctor on board was doing everything possible, but it wasn't enough. She needed an operating room. Captain Stevens, you don't understand? We have our own medical facility ready. We have surgeons standing by. If we take Emma now, we can save her and bring her home to her real mother. Alina has been waiting 2 years to hold her daughter again. Every day without Emma kills her a little more. Mike's mind raced. Could they really save Emma? Did they actually have medical facilities ready? Or was this a lie to get him to stand down? There was no way to know for sure. But he did know that Denver Medical Center was real, was ready, and was just minutes away. Colonel, I can't take that risk. I can't trust that you're telling the truth about having medical facilities. What I know for certain is that Denver can save her. That's where we're going. Then you leave me no choice, Captain Stevens. The Eastern aircraft suddenly accelerated and moved directly in front of the medical transport, cutting off its path. At the same time, the Southern aircraft moved in closer from below. They were boxing in the medical jet, trying to force it to slow down and eventually land. Mike reacted instantly. He fired his engines to full afterburner and moved ahead of the Eastern aircraft, once again blocking their path. But he knew this couldn't last. He was running out of fuel, out of options, and out of time. "Sarah, I need you here now." "I'm trying, Mike. This Northern aircraft won't let me disengage. They're staying on me no matter what I do." Then Mike's radar screen showed something that made his heart soar. For new contacts approaching fast from the west, the backup fighters had arrived early. For F-22s flying in perfect formation, coming to even the odds. "Viper 1, this is Viper 3. We're here to help." "What do you need?" Mike quickly assessed the situation. "Viper 3, take the Eastern aircraft off my hands. Viper 4, help Viper 2 with the Northern contact. Viper 5 and 6, stay with the medical transport. Box it in tight. Nothing gets close to it." "Copy that, Viper 1. Moving into position now." The arrival of backup changed everything. The 4 hostile aircraft suddenly found themselves outnumbered. The modified commercial jets were dangerous, but they couldn't match F-22 Raptors in a direct confrontation. The pilots knew it too. "Colonel Petrov, you're outnumbered now. Break off and let us get this girl to the hospital, please. If you really love your granddaughter, let us save her life." For a long moment, there was only silence. Mike watched his radar screen as the 4 hostile aircraft maintained their positions. Then slowly, the Eastern aircraft began to pull away. The Southern aircraft followed. Above them, the Northern aircraft disengaged from Sarah and turned away. It was over. They had backed down. "Captain Stevens, you have won this battle, but this is not over. We will get Emma back through legal means. Tell Jennifer Walsh that Alina is alive and wants her daughter. Tell her that we are coming." Mike let out a breath he didn't know he had been holding. "I'll pass along your message, Colonel, but right now, we need to save Emma's life." The medical transport continued toward Denver with 6 F-22s surrounding it in a protective formation. Mike checked his fuel gauge again. He had maybe 5 minutes of flight time left. It would be enough. Denver Medical Center was now just 2 minutes away. "Mrs. Walsh, how's Emma doing?" Jennifer's voice came back weak and exhausted. "She's hanging on, barely. The doctor says her blood pressure is dropping." "Captain Stevens, please tell me we're almost there." "It's 2 minutes, Mrs. Walsh. 2 minutes, and Emma will be in the best hands possible. Stay strong." Mike looked down through his canopy and could see the sprawling city of Denver below. The hospital was on the north side, marked clearly on his navigation system. Emergency vehicles were already waiting on the ground. The entire city seemed to be holding its breath for one little girl's arrival, as the medical transport began its descent. Mike stayed close, his eyes scanning the skies for any last-minute threats. The hostile aircraft had disappeared from his radar, but he wasn't taking any chances. Not until Emma was safely on the ground. The landing was smooth and fast. The moment the medical transport's wheels touched the runway, ambulances raced alongside it. Doctors and nurses in surgical scrubs were already running toward the aircraft before it had even come to a complete stop. Mike circled overhead, watching as the aircraft door opened and medical personnel rushed inside. Minutes felt like hours as he waited to see if they would bring Emma out alive. His fuel gauge was now in the red zone. He needed to land immediately or risk running out of fuel in the air. "Viper 1, this is ground control. The patient has been extracted and is being rushed to surgery. You're cleared to land. And Captain Stevens, everyone down here wants to say thank you." Mike felt relief wash over him like a wave. Emma was alive. She had made it. Whatever happened next with the custody battle, at least she would be alive to see it through. As Mike guided his F-2 toward the runway, he thought about Colonel Petrov and the woman named Alina who had lost her daughter. He thought about Jennifer and her husband who had raised Emma for 2 years, loving her as their own. And he thought about Emma herself, a 7-year-old girl caught in the middle of forces beyond her control. The wheels of his aircraft touched down smoothly. Mike taxied to a stop and shut down his engines. For the first time in what felt like hours, he allowed himself to relax. His hands were shaking slightly as he removed his helmet. The adrenaline that had kept him sharp during the confrontation was fading now, leaving him feeling exhausted. Ground crew rushed to his aircraft, but Mike sat in his cockpit for a moment longer, processing everything that had just happened. He had been seconds away from shooting down aircraft. He had risked his own life and the lives of others. All for a little girl he had never met. His radio crackled one more time. It was Colonel Harrison. "Viper 1, outstanding work today. You saved that little girl's life. Come to my office when you're ready. We need to debrief, and there are some people who want to meet you. Copy that command." On my way, Mike climbed down from his aircraft and was immediately surrounded by ground crew congratulating him. But his mind was elsewhere. He needed to know if Emma had survived the surgery. He needed to know if his actions today had been worth it. Mike walked through the corridors of the base command center, still wearing his flight suit. Other pilots and personnel stopped to shake his hand or pat him on the back. Word had spread quickly about what happened at 30,000 feet, but Mike barely acknowledged any of it. His mind was still in the sky, replaying every decision, every maneuver, every second where Emma's life had hung in the balance. Colonel Harrison's office door was open. Inside, Mike could see not just the colonel, but several other people in suits. Federal agents, he guessed, probably from multiple agencies. An incident involving foreign military aircraft in American airspace would bring out everyone from the FBI to the State Department. "Captain Stevens, come in." Colonel Harrison stood and gestured to a chair. "These gentlemen are from various government agencies. They have some questions about today's events. But before we begin, I want you to know that you acted with honor and courage. You saved a child's life while preventing an international incident from escalating into something worse. Whatever happens in the coming days, remember that." Mike sat down, feeling the weight of exhaustion settling into his bones. One of the men in suits leaned forward. He had gray hair and sharp eyes that seemed to analyze everything. "Captain Stevens, I'm Agent Morrison from the FBI. I need you to walk me through everything that happened. Starting from when you first intercepted the medical transport." For the next hour, Mike recounted every detail. The unidentified aircraft, the Russian fighter that claimed navigation failure, the 3 modified commercial jets that had tried to box in the medical transport. He repeated his conversations with Jennifer Walsh and Colonel Victor Petrov. He explained his decisions, his tactics, and his reasoning for every action he took. The agents listened without interruption, taking notes and occasionally exchanging glances with each other. When Mike finished, Agent Morrison leaned back in his chair and sighed. "Captain, what you stumbled into today is bigger than you know. We've been investigating the illegal adoption ring that took Emma Walsh for over a year. The organization operates across multiple countries, taking children from desperate families and selling them to wealthy couples who can't adopt through legal channels. Emma wasn't the only child they trafficked." Mike felt sick to his stomach. Emma had been bought and sold like property. Did Jennifer and her husband know? Did they know Emma was taken illegally? Agent Morrison shook his head. "We don't believe so. The adoption agency they used appeared legitimate on the surface. They had all the proper paperwork, all the right documents. The Walshes paid a large fee, thinking they were going through proper channels. They had no idea their daughter was essentially stolen from her biological mother." "What about Colonel Petrov? What about Elena, Emma's biological mother?" Another agent spoke up. This one was younger, with a folder full of documents. "Colonel Victor Petrov is a high-ranking military official in his country. When his daughter Elena was in a coma, her husband, who was drowning in debt, sold Emma to the trafficking ring for $50,000. By the time Elena woke up, Emma was gone and her husband had disappeared. Petrov used his military connections to track Emma to the United States, to the Walsh family. So he was telling the truth," Mike said quietly. "Elena really did lose her daughter while she was in a coma. Yes, and legally, she has a strong case for getting Emma back. The adoption was fraudulent. But Petrov's methods today were completely illegal. He used military resources to attempt an abduction on American soil. That's an act of aggression that could have serious diplomatic consequences." Colonel Harrison spoke up. The State Department is handling the diplomatic fallout. Multiple countries are involved now. But Captain Stevens, there's something else you need to know. Emma survived the surgery. Mike felt relief flood through him. She's going to be okay? The doctors say she'll make a full recovery. The internal bleeding was severe, but they got to her in time. Another 10 minutes, and she wouldn't have made it. Your actions saved her life. Mike nodded, feeling a lump in his throat. 7-year-old Emma Walsh would live to see another day. Whatever happened with the custody battle, at least she would be alive for it. There's someone who wants to meet you, Agent Morrison said. Jennifer Walsh is here at the base. She asked if she could thank you in person. Are you willing to meet her? Mike hesitated. Meeting the people he had saved would make everything more real, more personal. But he couldn't say no. Yes, I'll meet her. They led him to a small conference room down the hall. Inside, a woman in her mid-30s sat at a table, her eyes red from crying. She looked exhausted, emotionally drained, but there was still strength in her posture. Next to her sat a man who Mike assumed was her husband. Both of them stood when Mike entered the room. Captain Stevens, Jennifer Walsh said, her voice breaking. You saved my daughter's life. I don't have words to express what that means to me. Thank you. Thank you so much. Mike shook her hand, feeling awkward and uncertain. I was just doing my job, ma'am. I'm glad Emma is going to be okay. It was more than your job. You put yourself in danger for her. You risked everything. Jennifer wiped tears from her eyes. The agents told me about Alina, about Emma's biological mother. They told me that Emma was taken illegally. I had no idea. We thought we were giving a home to an orphan who needed parents. We love her so much. She's our daughter. I could see the pain in Jennifer's eyes. She loved Emma completely, had raised her for 2 years, had been willing to die to get her to that hospital. But somewhere across the ocean, another mother had spent 2 years searching for the daughter who was taken from her. What happens now? Mike asked. Jennifer's husband spoke for the first time. His name was David, and he looked like a man who hadn't slept in days. The lawyers are telling us that we might lose her. Alina has a legitimate claim. The adoption was fraudulent. We might have to give Emma back to her biological mother. She doesn't even remember Elena, Jennifer said, her voice rising with emotion. Emma was only 5 when she was taken. She has vague memories, but we're the parents she knows. We're the ones who have been there for her. Doesn't that count for something? Mike didn't know what to say. He was a fighter pilot, trained for combat and tactical decisions. This was a different kind of battlefield, one where there were no clear enemies and no easy victories. Both mothers loved Emma. Both had legitimate claims to being her parent. Someone was going to get hurt no matter what happened. Agent Morrison entered the room. Mr. and Mrs. Walsh, I need to speak with you about the legal proceedings. Captain Stevens, there's someone else here who wants to see you. Someone who just arrived from overseas. Mike's stomach tightened. He had a feeling he knew who it was. They led him to another room, this one with more security. 2 federal agents stood outside the door. Inside, Mike found a woman sitting alone at a table. She was in her early 30s, with dark hair and eyes that held a deep sadness. When she looked up and saw Mike, she stood immediately. Captain Stevens, she said in heavily accented English, I am Alina. I am Emma's mother. I want to thank you for saving my daughter's life. Mike studied her face and saw the same exhaustion and pain he had seen in Jennifer Walsh. 2 mothers, both claiming the same child, both genuinely loving her. This was an impossible situation. You're welcome, Mike said simply. Emma is a brave little girl. Elena's eyes filled with tears. I have not seen her in 2 years. 2 years of not knowing if she was alive or dead. My father, he found her finally. I know what he did today was wrong, using military to try to take her. But we were desperate. I just want my baby back. Mike sat down across from Alina, feeling the weight of her grief. I can't imagine what you've been through. But you have to understand, Jennifer and David Walsh love Emma too. They didn't know she was taken illegally. They're innocent in all this. Alina nodded, wiping tears from her cheeks. I know. The agents, they told me. They are good people who were lied to. But Emma is my blood. I gave birth to her. I held her as baby. When I woke from coma and found her gone, I wanted to die. Only thing that kept me alive was hope of finding her. What happened to your husband? The one who sold her? Elena's face hardened. He is in prison now. My father made sure of that. He took money to pay his gambling debts and sold our daughter like she was nothing. He deserves to suffer for what he did. Mike understood her anger, but he also knew that anger wouldn't solve the impossible question facing everyone now. Elena, I have to ask you something. Emma almost died today. She fell from a treehouse and had severe internal bleeding. The Walshes dropped everything to get her emergency medical care. They love her enough to risk everything for her. Can you honestly say that taking her away from them is what's best for Emma? Elena's face crumpled. You think I have not asked myself this every day? You think I do not know that Emma has new family who loves her, but she is my daughter. I am her mother, not by choice of adoption agency, but by blood and birth. Does that not matter? Before Mike could respond, Agent Morrison entered the room with urgent news. Elena, Captain Stevens, you both need to come with me. Emma is awake from surgery, and she's asking for her mother. Both mothers? The doctors think it's important that we figure out what to do before she gets more confused. They walk through the corridors of Denver Medical Center, an unlikely group united by one small girl. Mike, the fighter pilot who had saved her life. Elena, the biological mother who had searched for 2 years. And behind them, Jennifer and David Walsh, the adoptive parents who had raised her. The hospital staff led them to a private waiting room near the pediatric intensive care unit. Through a window, Mike could see Emma's room. She was lying in bed, small and fragile, with tubes and monitors connected to her. A nurse sat beside her, speaking softly. Dr. Patricia Chen, the lead surgeon, met them outside the room. She was a woman in her 50s, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Emma is stable and recovering well. The surgery was successful. But emotionally, she's very confused. She keeps asking for her mommy. But she's mentioned both Jennifer and someone named Elena. She seems to have memories of both of you. Jennifer Walsh looked like she might collapse. David held her steady, his own face pale with emotion. Elena stood rigid, her hands clasped tightly together as if in prayer. Dr. Chen continued. I've consulted with our child psychologist. This is an extraordinarily delicate situation. Emma is only 7 years old. She's just been through a traumatic injury and major surgery. Whatever we do next, we need to put her emotional well-being first. What do you recommend? Agent Morrison asked. I think both mothers should see her, but not at the same time. Emma needs to understand that she's safe and loved, but we can't overwhelm her. She needs time to process everything. Elena spoke up, her voice shaking. I will wait. Jennifer has been with her for 2 years. She should see Emma first. I will wait. Jennifer turned to Elena with surprise and gratitude in her eyes. Thank you. That means more than you know. Dr. Chen nodded. Jennifer, David, you can go in now. But please, keep it brief. Emma needs rest. Mike watched through the window as Jennifer and David entered Emma's room. The little girl's eyes opened when she saw them. Even from a distance, Mike could see her smile. Jennifer rushed to her bedside, taking Emma's hand carefully, mindful of all the medical equipment. David stood on the other side, his hand on Emma's shoulder. They spoke quietly, too softly for Mike to hear through the window. Emma seemed calm, secure in the presence of the people she knew as her parents. Jennifer was crying, but trying to smile for her daughter. David wiped his own eyes with the back of his hand. Elena watched from the doorway, tears streaming down her face. She looked so different, so much bigger. I have missed 2 years of her growing. 2 years of birthdays and first days of school and bedtime stories. I will never get those back. Mike felt his chest tighten. There were no winners in this situation. No matter what the courts decided, someone would lose. Either Elena would lose her daughter permanently, or the Walshes would have to give up the child they had raised and loved as their own. And Emma would lose a family either way. After 15 minutes, Jennifer and David emerged from the room. Jennifer's eyes were swollen from crying, but there was also peace on her face. She's doing well. She asked about what happened. We told her that a brave pilot protected her and got her to the hospital. She wants to meet you, Captain Stevens. Mike felt surprised. I'm not sure that's appropriate. Please, Jennifer said. She needs to thank you, and I think you need to see that she's okay. Mike looked at Agent Morrison, who nodded. Keep it brief. And remember, she's just been through major surgery. Mike entered Emma's room, feeling more nervous than he had felt in the cockpit at 30,000 feet. Emma was awake, looking at him with curious eyes. She was small for 7 years old, with dark hair like her biological mother and a dusting of freckles across her nose. Are you the pilot? Emma asked, her voice weak but clear. Yes, I'm Captain Stevens. But you can call me Mike. My mommy said you flew next to our plane and kept us safe from bad people. Mike pulled a chair close to her bed. That's right. I made sure nothing stopped you from getting to the hospital. Emma was quiet for a moment, her small face serious. I was scared. I thought I was going to die. Everything hurt so much. But you didn't die. You're going to be just fine. You're very brave, Emma. Mommy says I have another mommy. A mommy from before. Her name is Alina. I think I remember her, but it's fuzzy, like a dream. Is she real? Mike felt his throat tighten. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that her entire life is caught in an impossible situation? Yes, she's real. She's been looking for you for a long time. She loves you very much. Does that mean I have 2 mommies now? I don't know, Emma. That's something the grown-ups have to figure out. But I can promise you one thing. Everyone here loves you and wants what's best for you. Emma looked at him with eyes far too wise for her age. Can't I just keep both mommies? Why do I have to lose one? Mike didn't have an answer for that. Before he could respond, Dr. Chen appeared at the door. Captain Stevens, Emma needs to rest now, and Alina is here. She'd like to see her daughter if everyone agrees. Mike looked at Emma, or someone who wants to say hello to you. Is that okay? Emma nodded, though she looked uncertain. Mike stood and walked to the door, where Alina waited with Agent Morrison. Jennifer and David were there too, standing together, holding hands. She's ready, Mike said softly to Alina. Alina took a deep breath and entered the room. Mike watched from the doorway as she approached Emma's bed slowly, as if afraid the girl might disappear if she moved too quickly. When she reached the bedside, Alina stopped and just looked at her daughter, tears flowing freely down her face. Emma, do you remember me? Alina's voice was barely above a whisper. Emma studied Alina's face carefully. You look like the lady in my dreams. The one who sang to me in another language? Alina let out a sob. Yes, yes. I used to sing to you every night. Russian lullabies that my mother sang to me. I remember the song, Emma said softly. But I don't remember the words. Alina began to sing, her voice shaking with emotion. It was a beautiful melody, haunting and sweet. As she sang, something changed in Emma's expression. Recognition flickered in her eyes, as if a door in her memory had opened just a crack. When the song ended, Emma reached out her small hand. Alina took it carefully, mindful of the IV line. They stayed like that for several minutes, mother and daughter connected after 2 years of separation, but also still strangers to each other. Outside the room, Mike stood with the Walshes and the agents. No one spoke. What was there to say? They were witnessing something profound and heartbreaking at the same time. Eventually, Alina emerged from the room. Her face was wet with tears, but there was also something like peace there. She walked directly to Jennifer and David. Thank you, Alina said, her voice thick with emotion. Thank you for loving my daughter, for giving her a good home, for taking her to hospital today and saving her life. Jennifer was crying again. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry she was taken from you. We didn't know. We would never have gone through with the adoption if we had known. Alina took Jennifer's hands in hers. I know I can see you are good people. Emma is loved by you. That is clear. David spoke up, his voice rough. What happens now? The lawyers say you have a strong case to get her back. We might not have any choice but to give her up. Alina looked back toward Emma's room, then at the Walshes, then at Mike and the agents. When she spoke, her voice was steady but sad. I have thought about nothing but getting Emma back for 2 years. Every day, every hour, I thought about holding her again. But I saw her face when she looked at Jennifer. I heard her call Jennifer Mommy without thinking. Emma knows you. She loves you. I am stranger to her now. What are you saying? Agent Morrison asked. I am saying that maybe I need to think about what Emma needs, not what I need. She has been through so much. Surgery, fear, confusion. To take her away from the only home she remembers would hurt her more. I cannot do that to my own daughter. Jennifer looked stunned. Are you saying you won't fight for custody? Alina shook her head. No. I am saying we need to find a different way. A way where Emma does not lose anyone. I spoke with my father before coming here. He was wrong to use military to try to take her. We both know that now. He will face consequences for what he did. But maybe some good can come from this. Dr. Chen had been listening from nearby. There are options. Shared custody arrangements. Emma could spend time with both families. It's not traditional, but this isn't a traditional situation. With therapy and support, Emma could maintain relationships with both of her mothers. Would that be possible? Jennifer asked, looking at Agent Morrison. Legally, I mean? The agent nodded slowly. It would be complicated. Alina is from another country. There would be diplomatic considerations, visa issues, travel arrangements. But yes, with cooperation from both families and both governments, it could be arranged. You'd need good lawyers and a lot of patience. Alina looked at Jennifer and David. Would you consider this? Would you share Emma with me? I know it would be difficult, but this way, she keeps both families. She does not have to choose. Jennifer looked at David, and they had one of those wordless conversations that long-married couples can have. Finally, Jennifer turned back to Alina. Emma asked Mike why she couldn't keep both mommies. Maybe she's wiser than all of us. If you're willing to try this, so are we. Emma needs to know where she came from. She needs to know her biological mother, but she also needs stability in the home she knows. Then we try, Alina said. We try to be family together for Emma. The adults shook hands, tears flowing freely now. Mike watched the whole scene, feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, something good could come from this impossible situation. 3 months later, Mike received an invitation to a small gathering at the Walsh family home. When he arrived, he was greeted by an unexpected sight. Jennifer and Alina were working together in the kitchen, preparing food and laughing at something David had said. Emma was in the living room, showing Colonel Petrov her drawings from school. Captain Stevens. Emma ran to him and hugged his legs. She had recovered completely from her surgery and looked healthy and happy. You came. Mommy said you might be too busy. Which mommy? Mike asked with a smile. Emma giggled. Both of them said it. But I knew you'd come because you're my hero. Alina and Jennifer came out of the kitchen together. The arrangement they had worked out wasn't perfect, but it was working. Emma spent most of the year with the Walshes in America, attending school and living in the home she knew. But several times a year, she traveled to visit Alina, learning about her heritage and building a relationship with her biological mother. Alina also visited America regularly, staying with the Walshes and spending time with Emma. Thank you for coming, Jennifer said to Mike. We wanted you to see how well Emma is doing. None of this would have been possible without you. Mike shook his head. I just flew the plane. You all did the hard work of putting Emma's needs first. Colonel Petrov approached, his uniform replaced with civilian clothes. He had faced a military tribunal for his actions, but received a light sentence due to the circumstances. His rank had been reduced, but he was still a free man. More importantly, he had his granddaughter back in his life. Captain Stevens, Petrov said, extending his hand. We meet again, under better circumstances. Mike shook his hand. Much better circumstances. I'm glad it worked out this way. You could have shot us down that day. You had every right. But you chose to protect and defend instead of destroy. That takes a different kind of courage. As the evening went on, Mike watched Emma move between her two families with ease. She would hug Jennifer, then run to show Alina something. then laugh at one of David's jokes, then ask her grandfather to tell her a story. She had adapted to her unique situation in the way only children can, accepting love from all the adults in her life without questioning why things were complicated. Before he left, Emma pulled Mike aside. "Captain Mike, can I ask you something?" "Of course, Emma. Why did you save me? You didn't know me. You could have gotten hurt. But you stayed with our plane and kept us safe. Why?" Mike crouched down to her level. "Do you remember what I told you in the hospital? That everyone here loves you and wants what's best for you?" Emma nodded. "Well, that includes me. The moment I knew you were on that plane, the moment I heard about a 7-year-old girl fighting for her life, you became someone worth protecting. That's what I do. I protect people, and I'm really glad I was there to protect you." Emma hugged him tightly. "When I grow up, I want to be a pilot like you. I want to help people too." Mike felt his eyes get misty. "I think you'll be a great pilot, Emma, but you're already helping people. You're teaching all the grown-ups in your life how to love bigger than they thought they could." As Mike drove home that evening, he thought about the chain of events that had started at 30,000 feet. A routine patrol that turned into an international incident. A split-second decision that saved a life. And most importantly, a group of adults who chose to put aside their own pain and anger to do what was right for one small girl. His phone rang. It was Colonel Harrison. "Captain Stevens, I wanted to give you a heads up. The commendation for your actions that day is being upgraded. What you did went beyond the call of duty. You'll be receiving the Distinguished Flying Cross." "Thank you, sir. But honestly, the real reward was seeing Emma healthy and happy tonight. That's enough for me. I figured you'd say that. You're a good man, Stevens. The Air Force is lucky to have you." As Mike ended the call, he looked up at the darkening sky. Somewhere up there at 30,000 feet, pilots were flying their missions, protecting the skies, ready to intercept any threat. It was a job that required technical skill, courage, and split-second decision-making. But sometimes, Mike had learned, it also required knowing when not to shoot, when to protect instead of destroy, when to give hope instead of taking it away. Emma Walsh had 2 mothers now, 2 families, and a complicated life ahead of her. But she was alive and loved, and that was what mattered. Sometimes the bravest thing a person can do isn't pulling a trigger. Sometimes it's choosing not to and finding a different way forward. Mike pulled into his driveway and sat in his car for a moment, watching the first stars appear in the evening sky. Tomorrow, he would be back in the cockpit, ready for whatever mission came his way. But tonight, he would sleep well, knowing that at 30,000 feet, when it mattered most, he had made the right choice. And somewhere in Denver, a 7-year-old girl named Emma would go to bed surrounded by people who loved her. Her future uncertain, but filled with possibility. She would dream of flying someday, of touching the sky, of being brave like the pilot who saved her life. And maybe, when she grew up, she would remember that the greatest courage isn't about fighting. It's about protecting what matters most, even when the world tells you there are no good choices. Sometimes there are. You just have to be brave enough to find them.